This was a nice introduction, thank you, but you still don't know much about me beside my name. So, before I commence and tell you about this minimalistic approach, let's play a little game. So, what can you tell about me based just on my looks? Can you tell a story about me? Just, I look nice, thank you. I don't get that often. I would prefer if it was said by a lady, but I'll take it as a compliment. Anyone else? Can you tell a story about me?
You spend a lot of time in front of a computer because of glasses.
No, but thank you. Nice comment. I'm a family guy. How can you tell that? Oh, no. This is because I like to cook and make food. Doesn't have to do with the family.
Actually, you were pretty minimalistic with some kind of taste, you know.
Uh-huh.
But it looks like pretty good, especially using some... Don't use some luxury stuff.
Uh-huh.
Be yourself.
So yeah, I'm minimalistic. Thank you. Okay, not bad, but not much, I must say. What if I do an interpretative dance and explain you what I do? So, anything you can tell from this little dance? No, nothing? Yeah, so my point is, people usually think that it's enough to create a visual of a character and that will tell some story. And as you can say, yeah, there can be some stories told, but not much and not much in depth. If a character does something, then you can see that, yeah, this guy is a bit crazy and we didn't really get anything from his interpretive dance, but yeah, he does something. And that will be important for my talk later. So, who am I? I'm a Grandpa Tiger, because my company is called Grandpa's Narrative Design. My name is Ranko Trifkovic, and I basically teach writers how to make games and game designer how to make stories. Why is that important? Because today in the market there are only three kinds of games. There are skill-based games that people have to be better in it, they have to get good to play it. Then there are applications who torture players and gamble against their patience to extort money. And everything else is basically a story. You have to have some sort of story to tell to your players. But there is a fourth kind of game, which I call toys, which is most difficult to make because that's the game which is designed to leave players with the story. Basically, we are creatures of a story. Each of us thinks of them as a main character in some ongoing story. But with interactive games, people are losing interest to read and take the stories in an old-fashioned way, about reading about some characters and then doing the stuff. So basically, we need to find new ways to tell stories, and game industry is quite not bad at doing it, but still the toys, the games which leaves you with the story are the most difficult to make. What kind of, what do I mean by these toy games? I mean the game in which narrative elements tell a story. Just using the text is not enough, and that's why I'm really sad that narrative design has become equal with game writing, because it's much more. It's about connecting the gameplay and the story. So have you ever played a game and then had the urge to tell someone what happened to you? Like, oh, you know what happened last night? It was this and this, and then it happened. So it happens to you. So these kind of games are toys. And it's very important, therefore, for game designers to know about how to craft game elements. And of course, no one can ruin your game like a writer, so please tell them to learn a bit more about game design. You will save the world. So, can you guess what this machine does? There are some nice parts. There are some nice elements. Is there anyone in the room who can tell what these elements serve? What purpose do they serve? What machine will they make? Not really. So therefore, you cannot tell which of these elements will not fit, which of these elements will make some problems and complications, unless, of course, you're an expert and you say, oh, this looks broken, it shouldn't be, should be connected. And basically, as a narrative designer, I'm an engineer of the story. I can build you a story out of the elements. But sadly, narrative designers nowadays are more like plumbers. Like everything goes to hell, and then they call, I fix my parts. But if you don't know what's the purpose of the whole, it's really not difficult. It's really difficult to fix the whole machine. So yeah, this is a pile driver. How couldn't you tell? So only if we know what the machine is, what's the purpose of the machine, what the goal of the machine is, we can fix the elements and work with them. So everyone loses their shit when it comes to writing. Everyone. Not even writers can hold their shit. I've been teaching a lot of writers, and I noticed this. They act like barbarians. They're like, oh, story, fantasy, I want to write this and that, I want everyone to enjoy my fantasy. And yeah, if you cannot tell, the sad kid in the middle is a narrative designer. Because everyone has a story to tell, but in fact, because we are the creatures of the story, as I said, we're more interested in projecting our fantasies outward. So everyone, if you speak, if you write, yeah, you think you can write a story. And you write, I mean, why not? But if it's going to be good, and if you know and understand all the elements, that's a different thing. So basically, as you can say, I'm a family guy, I like making food. So, you know, pizza is made with dough and eggs and, I don't know, different ingredients, and then you have to combine them in the right way, and then you have to work the dough, and you have to roll out the dough, and then you have to put some toppings in it. But if writers, especially game writers, if they were making pizza, it would be like this. Grab flour, smash it inside the oven, toss some eggs, grind some cheese, bake! And they expect story to emerge from this. And it's not going to happen. It never happens. It's just that some individuals are talented, and it works for them because they are big barbarian warriors with huge swords, and of course something comes out of it. But if you rely on inspiration of your game writer, you're screwed. So let's do a little quiz. What's this game? Wolfenstein? Okay, who's this guy? What's his name? Is he, what is he, Polish, Russian? Polish American? Does he have a brother? We don't know. What's this game? Funny thing is, I didn't know. When someone showed me this face, I said, oh, this is Duke Nukem. Yeah, I suck at this. So who's this? Link! And he's not even the star of his own game. It's Princess Zelda is the name of the game, right? Horrible. So do you know how Zelda looks like? Can you describe Zelda to me? Princess, pink skirt, blonde, cute. So who's who? How could you tell? I mean, they look pretty much... Yeah, so everyone who says, let's make a princess character gives them the same elements. Like, okay, let's toss some pink clothes and stuff like that. And who's who?
The right is Doom guy and the left one is Halo.
How can you tell? They both have guns and armors and helmets, and even the same kind of helmet. I'm amazed. Yeah, we're exposed. Sometimes the characters are not memorable at all. We're just exposed to them, and so we can tell who's who. Can you guess the character? Pac-Man. Exactly, that's my point. You don't have to have a visual identity to have a character memorable. Waka Waka is perfectly fine, you know. It's sometimes what these characters say. So let's go over through anatomy of character quickly, and then we'll see what's wrong, what's not. Because, as I said, I'm often asked to fix a certain element of a game, and yeah, I can do it, as I've showed in my interpretative dance. But sometimes it's not easy, because does someone use Grammarly? Yeah? Sometimes, yeah. I use it all the time. I'm not the... Huh? Made in Ukraine. Fantastic. I didn't know that. Anyway, Grammarly can help you. It's a software designed to help you with your punctuation, with your words, blah, blah. But sometimes the Grammarly will go crazy. It will say, change this word. And then you continue writing, no, change it back. And then you continue, no, change it over. Because Grammarly cannot fix your skill. It cannot know the whole of your text. It can just fix on fixing your little elements. So that's why I want to go quickly through the anatomies of characters. And characters like this beautiful cake have 3 layers. First rail is their role. Why are the characters there? What will they do? The characters are... Does someone do barbecue? Yeah? chicken, yeah, and you know the chicken is difficult to grill. Like you have, the more chicken you have, the more coal fire you need to have. Well, the characters are very similar. If you inject the character in the story, they will need some time and some space, like pieces on a chessboard. So the more characters you have, the more time, narrative time, the more gameplay time you'll have to need. And you first need to know why are they there, what's their role. Generally, characters are either drivers or passengers. And it's very important because drivers are those who move the story forward. Drivers are those whose interest we follow, and passengers are those sidekicks and all other characters that just follow along. They are important, they can be part of the main crew, but they don't move the story forward. And often, people make mistake not knowing which role to assign, and basically they make super cute, interesting passengers and focus the story on them. And that confuses your audience, because basically what's the goal of game writing is to code the perception of your audience. There are rules, and those rules aren't conventions. These are as hard rules as gravity. And if your player, if they follow these rules instinctively, naturally, and if you don't know how to code this track of their perception, you will cheat them. Basically, they will say, okay, these guys are supposed to be a passenger, but there's so much gameplay or narrative time invested in them, so they can be confused. Basically, drivers are protagonist and antagonist. Protagonist is, of course, are those whose center of their ideas, of their goals, is moving the story forward. They want to do something. And the antagonist is someone who's opposed. Can you tell me who's the antagonist in Star Wars? No, Darth Vader is not. Emperor. No, Emperor is not. No, it's the whole Galactic Empire. Yeah, the Galactic Empire is the antagonist, because the protagonists are fighting against them, and they they represent the opposite values. What Darth Vader is, he's a contagionist. He's the one who has goal to prevent the main character, because basically, what does the Empire want? To rule everything, to rule the galaxy, blah blah. And Darth Vader just wants, power and to collect his son to take him over to the dark side.
Actually, you mean that the Star Wars protagonist is the rebels, and the antagonist is the Empire?
Could be, but we're not following what happens to the rebellion as a whole. We are following the story of few characters, and one character whose story we constantly follow is. In the first 3 movies, it was Skywalker. So yeah, he's the protagonist. Protagonist can be main character and a hero. Main character or main characters are those who matter in the story, and protagonist is moving the story forward. When these two combine, you become a hero. So you can have, for example, rebellion as a main character, but not necessarily a protagonist, because story is not following their journey, it's following the journey of a particular character. Of course, you know who's the Guardian, right? Yeah, Obi-Wan. So anyone who's helping along the drivers, he's also important, because why Guardian is not a passenger? Because if there was no Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke wouldn't go to continue on his quest. So they're driving characters. Passengers are those who are sidekicks or skeptic. Do we know who's a skeptic in Star Wars? Han Solo, of course. And sidekick is those who are unquestionably rooting for the hero. They never doubt. They're always super positive. Who's that? C-3PO. Fantastic. And in Lord of the Rings, it's Sam. Right. 100 points. And the other kind of passengers are reason and emotion. Reason are those who like, come on guys, let's have a plan. And emotional ones are the one who show emotions of a group or reflect the emotions of the main character. And in Star Wars, emotion is?
Princess Leia? Those guys with lonely years, maybe.
No, but yeah, he could be an emotional character. Jar Jar Binks is sort of emotional character there, but someone was right. Chewbacca, yeah, the Wookiee is emotional character, and Princess Leia is actually reason. Yeah, do you remember when she first sees them, she says, "Oh, you're a bit too tall to be Star Wars. Let's go get this done." So she's the boss. Yeah, she pushes everyone, and she thinks, yeah. So these are the roles. Why are they important? Because if you mix up the roles, you will assign them a wrong narrative time and space, and then you'll just confuse your players. So next layer is motivation. Yeah, what is anatomy of a character? Yeah. The first one is what, which is the goals of a character. So goals of a character is what they do, what they want to achieve, and it's usually anchored to a plot. In the sense that if you have a game, you always have some sort of goal which you have to communicate to your player. Like you are a soldier and your goal is to, I don't know, kill everyone. And these, if you change the goal, you have different story. Of course, you can have some mini game or something. But if you have a character who's like you are a soldier, and then your goal is to plant some trees, then they will read your story as a different genre. They say, okay, he's a soldier, but it doesn't matter. The more thing that matters is what his goal is. This goal I call hard-coded because it's connected to the plot. It has to be connected to the plot 100%, and it's not easy to express. Like, I'm giving this talk, and can you tell what's my goal behind this? Am I just, being a nice guy and sharing my knowledge with you, or what do I want? We don't know. We just know what I do right now. I'm talking to you and trying to tell you something about character design. So this is not easy to express, so have it in mind that you have to sort of make sure that the things that your character in a game, even a player's character, has to do, those goals will sort of define the character. No one can introduce the character like right away, like, okay, this is the guy, because in writing as well as game design, you show, not tell is the thing. So you have to show the players that there's some goals, and make sure that these goals connect with the character traits that you want, because if they change slightly, you have completely different genre, you have completely different story. Has everyone read the Ender's Game? Ender's Game, first book, they try to defend from the evil aliens, blah, blah. They kill them. And then the second book, the guy who destroyed the entire alien race is now peace talker, speaking about peace in the galaxy. And basically, the story completely changes. It's like set in the same universe, but it's completely different story because the goal of the main character shifts. Next one is motivation. Why? And why is really important because it allows you to move things around. So for example, do you remember in Photoshop there's this slider which when you mess with, the whole thing just changes a lot? The motivation is that slider. So if you have a character and you set them the goals, that's hard-coded. That's like messing with the basis of the stuff. But if you assign them different motivations, that's quite easy to express and quite easy to change. And it gives the flavor. It makes the alien characters more alien or convincingly alien. It gives characters some sort of less two-dimensional way, because motivations give the flavor. For example, anime and manga really do this well. Like you have this character with the stereotypical goals, but then they have crazy motivations why they're doing it. They're doing it for the lulz, or they're doing it for some obscure reason, or you have to sort of explore through the game why are the characters doing this, and that's how you get really, really nicely textured characters. The thing with motivation is that it doesn't have to be logical. Like, why did I come here? Well, it could be like, okay, he came here to make some contacts, to give the talk, but maybe I've come here to meet you. Like, oh, I know she's there, so I'll tell the speech and she'll see me. So we don't know. It can be really crazy. Like it changes, like from being a serious guy to being some crazy romantic guy. And third one is ethos. It basically provides the answer to the question: how is the character going about doing this stuff that they're doing? It can provide for alignment, like is this a good character, bad character, or great character, and it really does a lot to turn your characters into like fully multifaceted characters, because if a character is like, okay, you're a soldier, your goal is to kill everyone, and your motivation is, I don't know, noble, but then how they're doing it, like slaughtering everyone indiscriminately, like, maybe this guy is not so good. Maybe he's like at least gray. This thing is with Ethos and with how is that it provides a wonderful opportunities for the twists and turns. For example, do you remember a movie where all of a sudden a character says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy"? And it's always powerful, no matter how cheesy movie it is, it's always powerful, like this transformation. Wow, because it changes the ethos, it changes how character goes about doing things. At first we see some character who is like trying to do things lawfully, legally, blah, blah, but when they switch to, no more Mr. Nice Guy, we root for them, you're like, yeah. Why is this important? Because the change is the essence of the story. If you have changes, you have a story. If I tell you something and it's flat, you like listening to a report. But if I tell you what suddenly happened, what changed, okay, it turns into a story. The same is with characters. If the characters change, that's a good thing. You cannot change their goals, or at least not easily. You can change their motivations, but it's like iffy, like suddenly he has different motivation, it's not so easy to express. But if you change the ethos gradually, or prepare for the change of ethos, then you have boom, you have wonderful thing. So these are like the basic layers for goals, motivations, and ethos for the characters. The other part is details, and those are very important because as you saw, waka waka waka, Pac-Man, EPKA motherfucker. Who said that? EPKA motherfucker. Bruce Willis, right. Elementary Marty Watson. Elementary Marty Watson. Who said that? Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, things that characters say, their voice is very important as well. Also names, like if you name your character Luke Skywalker, so it has some meaning, or I don't know, Shepard, in the Mass Effect game, Shepard, he's shepherd to us all, he's a hero protecting us. So yeah, names are important. Even if you name your character John Smith or something, there's a point that you want to tell us. Of course, background is, how to say, often overused and overestimated. Like, okay, we have a character, we have character design, and then we'll task our writer to write the lore background. No one reads background and lore. Only the die-hard fans who anyway play your game. But if I have to wait to learn about characters to the background, you're gonna lose me probably. And yeah, some unique bits really matter, like if you want to make some character beautiful, give them some scar or some blemish. So yeah, don't make perfect Mary Sue or perfect characters because they are not believable. And yeah, often producers want to have customization because they believe that customization will lead to players connected with the character. But that's just your like last-ditch effort because not always. In fact, I cannot remember a game which did that successfully. It's really like, it means something to games where player's avatar is the only character, then yeah, probably. But if you have a game and then add custom visuals, that just usually probably wasting your time. So, there was a game like this. Yeah, there was a time when they made games like this. And this was all the characters. You had these characters like this, and then you had this guy, and you had this guy, and that's all. And so, yeah, and they had like 36 of these guys. And the only thing you could tell them apart are these little shields, which are basically the same. And yet, something happened which really made them deeply, deeply textured and deeply different from each other. And it wasn't done by text. In fact, the only text from this game is like, this and this guy thinks again. That was the only text. Like, he's standing in this part of the world and he thinks again. I don't know what it means, but that was the only thing. But when it comes to a fight, because this was a combination of roleplay and a strategy game, when it comes to fight, player would notice that sometimes some of these guys will not fight. So we had names, we had these shields, but nothing else. Not even a change of graphics. It was everyone looked the same. But because we had different actions that these characters could perform or not, that gave them really deep characterization. In the sense that you say, okay, this guy comes from the huge citadel. I recruited him with a lot of soldiers, and yet he will not fight. Okay, maybe he's coward. And then they had these levels of fear, in the sense that the more dangerous situation is, the more of your lords would quit fighting, and then you could really tell which lords are brave and strong and good, especially when it comes to this guy, who, yeah, he had the different graphics than the others, but also his soldiers were miraculously much more stronger, so he could do more. And basically, that's the essence of what I wanted to tell you, that, yeah, you have to know all the anatomy of your character. You have to know all the parts. But first of all, you have to know what you want to achieve with your game, with your story, so you can craft these parts to fit your machine. Remember the machine and the parts. But also, if you want to go minimalistic, then, yeah, have all of those anatomic elements in mind, but actually, you can really do a lot of characterization, but allowing your characters to do something or disallowing them to do something. Because that's how we perceive characters, like what do they do? What can and what cannot they do? Basically, also, yeah, it also works for the player's character, for the avatar, because if you forbid player from doing something, that's going to tell the player that something is happening, that something is wrong, that something is changing in the story. And there is another hard rule to follow, in the sense that if you want to depict some sort of positive value, then allow your players to do something. And if you want to depict a negative value, forbid or compel them to do something. For example, if we have a character who approaches the huge army, and if we compel him to fight, the players will not read it as bravery. They will compare it, okay, this guy's berserker, and it's probably not a good thing, because I'm compelled to do this, I cannot stop it. So if you have a character facing an army, and then you can say to your players, yeah, you can probably win this. Here's an option, yeah, go do it. Then they will perceive it as strength, as power. Again, if the character, we want to depict character as a coward, because of course no player wants to say to himself, yeah, I'm a coward, or my avatar is a coward. But if you do need to depict some sort of flaw, then yeah, go with this, what player cannot do in the game. So, how they react, what they do and what they don't do. And dialogues, another thing I want to say, to dialogues are nice, but dialogues are difficult because they have to move the story forward, give the information, and sound naturally. A lot of writers think that dialogue is a playground for developing the characters. That's not true. It's what they do. It's their goals, their motivation, especially the ethos and how this ethos is projected in the game. It's what the characters will do. If you want players to connect to something, make it into actionable goals. I was working with a really nice indie game called Nowhere Prophet, and it was a card combat game, and it had a part where the player is leading a caravan similar to Banner Saga, and the game designer didn't really know how to make the number of people important to the player. So he tried to solve it with a story, like how to tell your player that it's that these guys matter, that they are not just a number. But again, it's show, not tell. It's how to create actionable goals that are important to the player that will connect the player to these elements. And yeah, as a moderator said, they didn't listen to me, and they had to kick out this thing completely. So yeah, it happens to me often, it seems. So yeah, there's no fixed recipe, but there is a bunch of things you can look out for. So think about what your character has to do, what are their goals, what are their motivations, and what's their ethos, and then find actions to represent these values inside of game. Because that's how your player will connect the most, identify the most if you're going to design the character. And then you will really have to use a minimalistic approach, in the sense that then you don't have to put all your effort on character design in graphical sense, which is of course nice. I'll give you one example from writing. Did you hear about Andrzej Sapkowski? Yes. One of my favorite characters in his books is called a count whose name was too difficult to pronounce. And this guy had a clear role. He had to start a fight, and he did. And we believed it because he's a count, so he's important to be on the court, whose name is too difficult to pronounce, which probably means he's not from these parts. He's probably some stranger. He probably doesn't know the rules. And of course, when he made mess, when he made some social faux pas, we believed it. And he just shows in one sentence the guy, the count whose name was too difficult to pronounce, and then he starts a fight. So just one line. And of course, we don't know how he looks, we don't know where is he from, we didn't know his name, but he's such a memorable character because he's a count whose name was so difficult to pronounce, and he does the trick. So yeah, don't put characters just to have more characters, find them roles, make it actionable. And yeah, have fun. We have time for questions? Yeah?
You finished, Ranko?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Please applause.